بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. خب alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Ādāb al-Salāt. We reached chapter 4 of this section about tahur. In the last chapter we talked about what should be our understanding when we move towards water for making wudu, and then here Imam Khomeini has discussion about tahur, the things by which we can make tahara, we can achieve purity as a ritual but also as something spiritual. So as you know, in fiqh we learn that the main thing is water, which we use for wudu and ghusl. In the absence of water, or if water is harmful to use, we do tayammum. But tayammum is with something which is from earth. It should be something which is not artificial. Quran says فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Sa'id, ulama say, means what is wajhul ard, on the surface of the earth, like soil, like stone, rock, these kind of things. Water is the main, and something earthy material is the secondary. Okay, now we want to understand some of the spirituality related to these two. Imam Khomeini says we have two paths, two ways for reaching the ultimate end, maqsad a'la, the highest destination, which is our ultimate end. Or you can say maqam qurb rububiyyah, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are two major ways. The main one, like water is the main and earthy material is the secondary. Okay, here also there is one main way and then one is secondary. The main way, the main path is through attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's absolute mercy and additional mercy, universal mercy, and you can say extra mercy. Rahmat mutlaq wa khususan rahmat rahimiyya. If you have studied tafsir of Surah Al-Hamd, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, or if you have listened to my lectures about Rahmah, for example, I have a series about understanding God's mercy, which are published also as papers in Message of Thaqalain. you know that we have two types of rahmah. Rahmah of Rahmaniyya and Rahmah of Rahimiyya. Rahmah of Rahmaniyya is general, is universal. It includes everything. Rahmati wasa'at kulla shay. There's a discussion in that series about characteristics of God's mercy. One of them is that it is inclusive. So there is some level of rahmah that reaches everyone, every even thing, not just one, everything, even if it's not a human being. This is Rahmaniyya. But Allah has additional rahmah for believers, for good people. So it's not that He just gives to good people or He gives equal to everyone. No. There is a level that you get it free of charge. There is a level that you get it when you subscribe to, when you qualify for. And in that series, I have explained that how the Quran attributes everything that we receive to mercy of Allah, to rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether there are things that we need for our life or for survival or for quality of life, for spiritual life, for forgiveness, for purification, everything is related to His rahmah. So the main path is paying attention to maqam rahmat mutlaqe و خصوصا رحمت رحیمیه, the absolute or universal mercy of Allah, especially the rahmah of rahimiyya, which is for believers and good people. For example, Quran, which is made available to all of us, believers or people who have no belief and faith, good people, bad people, everyone has access to the Quran. This is Rahmaniyya. This is general. Allah has made it into the form of text, chapters and ayahs, surahs and ayahs, chapters and verses, so that we can reflect on and benefit. If we follow the Quran and are faithful, then in addition to the general guidance which is available from the Quran, you can get even more. So it's generally a manifestation of Rahmaniyya of Allah, but then there is a chance for you to get Rahmah of Rahimiyya through it. Or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has a very good discussion here, Imam Khomeini, about the Prophet, and he says how the Prophet has come from a very high and close place to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, there are four spiritual and intellectual journeys. So the fourth journey is that you journey inside people but with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayr fil khalq bil haqq. I don't know if you remember or had come across these four journeys. In any case, for the Prophet was easier to remain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala personally, was better that after he has found Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and has done his journey inside the truth, with the truth, sayr fil haqq bil haqq, to just remain there. But prophets and messengers have another journey, and that is now to go back to the people without being disconnected and guide people. So Rasulullah is among people, helping people, dealing with good people and bad people, dealing with people like Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab. Why he has this suffering, this task which is causing lots of troubles for him? Because Allah, out of His mercy, wants to guide people and sends His Prophet as a mercy to people. Although it's difficult for Prophet to undertake this great task. So, the main path to nearness, to our ultimate end, is through Rahmah, general Rahmah, and also Rahmah of Rahimiyyah. And that is when we become mu'min and qualify for extra support that mu'mineen receive, muttaqeen receive. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Yes, it is ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ, for everyone, but muttaqeen have a special ways of gaining guidance in addition to what every human being can benefit. خب, this is the main path. Water, we said, stands for mercy of Allah. So when we use water, it reminds us of the main path towards nearness to Allah. But when this is not possible, when you feel that your hand is short and you cannot reach, it's like someone who has no water. What should you do? What is the second path, which is the secondary? Is to go nearer to Allah by paying attention to your poverty, a spiritual poverty, to your nothingness, by being very humble. Ubudiyya, servitude, poverty, nothingness, emptiness are all referring to this station that you feel you cannot make any progress by yourself. You are even tired of your own spiritual journey. You think, I am not making progress. So you go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask you to help even with journeying. He says, a child who is struggling to walk, if he thinks that I am okay, I don't need any help, with my own efforts I will reach, then father, mother leave the child. Say, okay, if you are able, you can do it. We don't want to interfere. They don't help him. But if he says, I am trying, it's not that I'm lazy. I'm trying, I am doing what I can, but I know this is not going to take me far. I need your help. Then you will get support. So using soil or a stone or something earthy is a kind of reference or hint to making yourself humble, and through humbleness move forward. In Dua Arafah, Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, Allahumma inni atawassalu ilayka bifaqri. Oh Allah, I bring as means of nearness to you my poverty. I do tawassul to my poverty. That is when you feel you have nothing valuable to give you energy, to give you power, to take you towards Allah. You say, okay, the fact that I am poor, this is very powerful wasila to take me towards you. He says it's better if the wayfarer totally loses his trust in his own suluk, in his own journeying and actions, and says, I'm doing this and that. You should do. It's not that you stop doing things and now we become lazy and do nothing. No, we do these things, but we don't put our trust in these things. We see no value. Just we have to do these things. But we say, through being desperate for help, Allah inshallah will help us. He says, if you do in this way, then maybe over one night you can make progress of 100 years with an attraction, with a radiation, jazbih, with an attraction from Allah. You may be very fast, because it's not your action, it's not your practice, it is your emptiness and inviting Allah to take you. Then you can maybe make a journey of 100 years in one night. And he says, this is when, with your tongue of not just zahir or body, but with the tongue of batin, inner self and heart, you would declare, أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. If you really acknowledge your miserable situation, you're being desperate for asking for help, then inshallah you will get the answer, and maybe in one night you can go 100 years forward. So using wudu as a means of nearness to Allah, and then two methods, through water or through earthy material for tayammum, give us this kind of alertness and attention to two ways of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One, through attention to His universal rahmah and additional rahmah, rahmat rahmaniyya and rahimiyya. And second is through attention to our poverty. This is chapter 4. Chapter 5, which is a continuity of discussion about the spirituality of wudu, is entitled در شمه از آداب وضو به حسب باطن و قلب. In some etiquette or manners of wudu according to the heart and inner self. The first thing that we have here is a hadith from Imam Raza alayhi salam, and this hadith is very interesting. It's an invitation to go deeper into the understanding of wudu. Let me also put for you the Arabic text of hadith in the chat box. And that is about some of the etiquette of wudu according to heart. We are not talking about etiquette of action of wudu. How to pour water, for example, how to start, how many times, those are important, but those we learn in fiqh. We are talking about a spiritual etiquette and manners. Okay, there is a hadith from Imam Raza alayhi salam. You have it in the chat box. So Imam Raza alayhi salam says, إنما أمر بالوضوء ليكون العبد طاهرا إذا قام بين يدي الجبار وعند مناجاته إياه. Wudu has been commanded. أمر بالوضوء. Amr means command. Why wudu is commanded? Imam says ليكون العبد طاهرا, because when the servant is standing before Jabbar, before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and wants to whisper to him in the munajatiyya, he should be tahir, or she should be tahir, pure. Muti'an lahu fima amarah, should be obedient to Allah with respect to what He has commanded. So wudu is a kind of purity when you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a kind of sign of obedience. Naqiyan min al-adnas wa najasa, clean from impurities. This tahara that Imam is referring to, and inshallah we will explain later also, is not just physical cleanliness. Physical cleanliness, yes, naqiyan min al-adnas wa najasa, it certainly includes physical cleanliness. But when it says طاهرا إذا قام بين يدي الجبار, or مطيعا له, it's not just physical. Plus مع ما فيه من ذهاب الكسل وطرد النعاس وتزكية الفؤاد. I said, it will become more clearer later. It's here. In addition to what we said, sorry, one of the advantages of wudu is that it removes kasal. If you are not very energetic, not very fresh, there is tiredness, boredness, wudu removes that. Or someone is sleepy, wudu removes that, brings some kind of freshness. وَتَزْكِيَةِ الْفُؤَادِ, this is then very clear. Wudu purifies the heart for standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when wudu is done properly, with proper understanding and attention, it's not just like washing your hand or face with soap. When you wash your hand with soap, okay, your hand becomes clean, physically clean. But does it have any impact on your spirituality? On purity of the heart? No. Yes, if you do it for the sake of Allah, it has impact, but just washing water with water and soap, no. Even if you wash it 10 times. Wudu is an act of worship which is designed not only to be a key to Salāt as a prerequisite. No, this by itself is a way for purification of the heart. So the same thing for which we say al-Salāt, the same thing is also intended to happen through wudu. Then Imam Raza alayhi salam continues, وَإِنَّمَا وَجَبَ عَلَى الْوَجْهِ وَالْيَدَيْنِ وَالرَّأْسِ وَالرِّجْلَيْنِ. Wudu has become obligatory on face, hands, head and feet. Yeah, these are the organs that are engaged with wudu. You wash your face, you wash your hands, you do massive wipe on head and feet. Why these parts of the body are included? لأن العبد إذا قام بين يدي الجبار فإنما ينكشف من جوارحه ويظهر ما وجب فيه الوضوء. Because when the servant of Allah stands for Salat, these are the parts which are normally zahir, visible. Rest of body might be covered, but these are the things that are normally zahir. Of course, for the ladies, their head is covered, but for men might be visible. So the main parts which may be visible are this. Maybe someone puts, something to cover, for example, his hands, put it under abba or etc. cloak. But if normally something is visible, are these parts. وذلك أنه بوجهه يسجد ويخضع وبيده يسأل ويرغب ويرهب ويتبتل وبرأسه يستقبله في ركوعه وسجوده وبرجله يقوم ويقعد. These parts are at the same time the parts that are important in connection with Allah and having encounter with Allah. With his face, he does sajda and shows humility. With hand, ask Allah, shows eagerness, shows desperation. With head, goes towards Allah in ruku and sujood. With feet, stands and sits. So in this hadith, Imam is making a beautiful connection between body and the soul, between physics of our actions in wudu and the spirituality of our actions. And if we want to summarize everything, we can say wudu is a means for purity of heart, a means for declaration of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, eagerness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not by chance or accident that we make wudu, or we make wudu in this way. Everything has a reason. And at the same time that excuse me, at the same time that the main thing is heart. In hadith we have that Allah does not look at your faces, he looks at your heart. But the physical side is not neglected in Islam, because there is connection. Heart is the main thing, but your hand, your feet, your face are also important. Cleanliness of the heart is the main thing, but cleanliness of the physical organs is also important. So in Islam there is beautiful connection between zahir and batin, between rituals and spirituals, between physics of our actions and the spirit of our actions. Then he says bil jumla, as a summary, سالک الله باید در وقت وضو متوجه شود به این که میخواهد متوجه محضر مقدس حضرت کبریا شود. So the wayfarer at the time of wudu must be conscious, must pay attention to this point, that he wants to connect to the most sacred reality in this world. And with such conditions of the heart, Salik realizes that I am not worthy of having encounter with the most sacred reality in the world. If I go with this condition of heart towards him, I might be rejected. So tries to do something which is easier, which is taharat al-zahiri. With physical cleanness, you start the process of purification, but you say, this is what I am trying to do, and push it towards my heart. Like when you have a house you want to clean, you start cleaning outside and inside, not just inside. You have to start cleaning. Maybe outside can be done quickly as a sign of commitment, and then at the same time you work on inside. پس دامن همت به کمر زند که طهارت ظاهری را به باطن سراید. So must make efforts to extend the apparent purity into باطن, into inner self. و قلب خود را که مورد نظر حق بلکه منزلگاه حضرت قدس است از غیر حق تطهیر کند. And to purify his heart, which is where God looks, or indeed where God settles. Because hadith says Allah looks at your heart. Also hadith says qalb is the sanctity of Allah, and Allah settles in the heart of mu'mineen. Al-qalbu haramullah fala tuskin haramallah ghayr Allah. So we should extend and push this cleanness from zahir to batin and get rid of our selfishness, which is the root of all problems. Ego is the root of all problems. Then there is another hadith. This is maybe we leave it for the next inshallah session. Just give you a preparation. There is a hadith about a question which was raised by some of the Jews to the Prophet. They asked him different questions. One of them was, لأي علة توضع هذه الجوارح الأربع. Why these four parts are washed in and wiped in wudu? Face, hand, head and feet. They asked the Prophet. These are the parts that they said are anzaf. They are the cleanest normally. Why we make wudu with these four parts? And Rasulullah gave very beautiful answer, and that answer connects us to the issue of Hazrat Ādāb and the sin that he had. It's a very deep concept. Inshallah we'll talk about it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Is there any question, any comment for this part? I should also give you the link for the last session. Inshallah, I will give you the link.